Good morning. This is Kamera again. We're on day number 102. First King, chapter 1 and 2. So we are done with the last book, and we're entering into the 11th book of the Bible. So I have Aiden with me again. He wanted to help out. Say hi, Aiden. So you just want to say hi? You leaving? Okay. Love you. That boy. Anyway, King David, yeah, he's grown older, and his people are finding it hard to keep him warm. So what they do is they search for a beautiful woman, a virgin, and they get her to take care of King David. No sexual relation. Her whole purpose is just to take care of him and keep him warm. I guess from skin to skin it works better than just the blankets they get. Not enough blankets for him to keep him warm. Her name is Abishag, and she's from Shunem. But yeah, that's where David is right now. They call him old, but I don't think 70 is old. And the only reason the way I came up with that age is he started kingship over Israel at the age of 30, if I'm not mistaken, and he served Israel for 40 years. So it's 70. That 30 plus 40 is 70. So yeah, I don't think that's really old, but that's what they say. He grew old. So get this. His son is Adonijah. Adonijah, he was born right after Absalom. Adonijah decided he's going to take over the kingship. Clearly, if these people are trying to keep him warm, he's not really doing too much. So Adonijah takes over the kingship. He gets Joab. He gets Abiathar, the priest, to assist with that. And Adonijah decided to have this big sacrifice. So he get the king's officials and the royal officials. He gets his brothers and of course Abiathar and Joab, and they go and have this big celebration / sacrifice. Nathan the prophet and Zadok the priest, they're not with that. Neither is Benaiah, the king's personal bodyguard, and a couple other, I believe, people and some of his other bodyguards. They're not with that. So Nathan goes to Bathsheba and said, Bathsheba, you need to go talk to David. Adonijah is taking over this kingship. I mean, those people actually saying, long live King Adonijah. Really, everybody knows Solomon's supposed to be the next king. But Nathan runs to Bathsheba and said, you and your son gonna die if Adonijah has his way. You know Solomon's supposed to be king. You know, he tells her what Adonijah is up to, so you need to go talk to David. Bathsheba goes to David. David, didn't you say that Solomon's supposed to be king? Well, Adonijah, he's doing these things, proclaiming to be king. He's going to kill me and Solomon. I just know he is, basically. Nathan comes in right after that and again, remind David what he said, told him what Adonijah was up to, and told him he needed to do something about it. King David says, okay, take Solomon. Let him ride on my mule. Zadok, Nathan, anoint him as king, and then place him on the throne. They do exactly what David says, and people of Israel started reciting, long live King Solomon. Okay, Adonijah, Joab, they hear all this commotion going on with Israel. So Abiathar's son runs in there and tells them, oh, Solomon was just anointed as king. Yeah, tells them exactly what happened, how he was anointed, how he's now sitting on David's throne. Panic arises among his entourage, his guests, and they all began to scatter. Adonijah know he's in trouble, so he runs to the altar and he grabs the horn, and he's like basically, it's like pretty much basically saying, this is a safe spot. No one's going to kill me here. This is my safety spot. Word gets to Solomon that Adonijah ran and grabbed the horns. Solomon says, Adonijah's fine as long as he's at peace and he's unified with me. Adonijah goes to King Solomon, and yeah, he receives King Solomon as king. He bows, kisses, whatnot. Okay, David is now dying. Fast forward, David is now dying. David has a list of requests that he wants Solomon to follow. And these requests, just some unfinished business or business he couldn't take care of, he's now wanting his son Solomon to take care of. For number one, he says, let's start with Joab. Joab, he murdered 2 of my commanders. One, Abner, because remember, Abner had made peace with David. He murdered Amasa. Remember, Amasa was also placed in position as a commander. Joab pretends that it was an act of war. No, this was during a peaceful time. Take care of Joab. Don't let him die don't let him die a young, peaceful death. You're a wise man, Absalom. You know what to do. He said that with Shemaiah. Remember Shemaiah when David was running for running for his life, escaping his son, and Shemaiah was throwing insults and rocks at David. Then when David became king again, he goes to the Jordan River to apologize, and David said, I'm going to spare your life. David said, but he's not innocent. He was no innocent just because I didn't kill him. He says, you're a wise man. You know what to do with him. Who else? Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I can't ever remember this guy named Zalai. David told him to remember him because he was good. Who else was of importance that David mentioned? I forgot who he mentioned. But get this. Yeah, those are the main ones, I believe. But get this. Solomon decided to do exactly what his dad told him to do. He had Shemaiah to build a house. Oh, first of all, before that, David dies. David dies. And it says he reigned for 40 years. Tells you how long he reigned over just Judah and then all of Israel. Solomon establishes his throne. He do some things. For instance, Adonijah requests for the king's concubine, King David's concubine, the one who kept David warm. Adonijah goes to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and asks for Abishag. King Solomon's pretty wise. His mother goes to him, and he says, I have one request for you. So, of course, Solomon, places a throne next to him for his mother to sit and say, anything you ask for, mommy. Anyway, he says, King Adonijah would like to have King David's last concubine, who was Abishag. Solomon was like, why don't you just give him my own throne? Give him the whole kingdom. That is not a small request. So what does King Solomon do? Remember Benaiah. Did I mention that Benaiah was also one of those that was the king's personal bodyguard? He calls Benaiah and tells him to go and execute his brother Adonijah. I don't blame Solomon. Clearly he had a plan. You want the king's concubine, the one who spent her last days with him, and then Joab and Abiathar is not on his side, so they're up to something. Adonijah is still trying to do something that's not cool. And so he had Benaiah, the king's personal bodyguard, to kill him, King David's personal bodyguard. But he elevated or promoted Benaiah to be the commander over his army. Go ahead, King Solomon. He knew who his true followers were. And, Joab, come on. David had a problem with him. And you know what? Never made mention that with Joab, never made mention that David knew that Joab had killed his son Absalom. So yeah, when Joab heard that King Solomon had his own brother Adonijah killed, he runs to that altar and grabs the horn. Benaiah went back and said, well, King David, he said he's not leaving this place of safety. King Solomon. So King Solomon said, okay, execute him where he is. And they execute Joab right there along the altar. Good, that'll be a sacrifice or a guilt offering to remove the guilt from my family for all the wrong that he had done. Abiathar. Yeah, David said, Solomon said, you know what, I should kill you, but I'm not going to kill you because you carried the Ark of Covenant for my father. So you just go into your home and we'll just leave it at that. Shemaiah. Okay, I need you to build a home here in Jerusalem. And if you ever leave Jerusalem, then I will have you executed. Yeah, Shemaiah was, oh my God, grateful. Thank you. It's more than I could ever ask for. 3 years later, he goes after, I believe, was it a servant he went after? I'm not certain, but he leaves Jerusalem. Word got to Solomon, and Solomon had him killed. I told you not to leave. You totally disregarded what I said. So by him disagreeing, that was taken care of. But this is the thing, though. Solomon is now established as the king. King David is now dead. And he was a good king. He was a good man. He made some mistakes. But before that, he did everything God ever wanted him to do. He was a man of David, King David, man of integrity, very patient, very faithful man to God. He gave into a terrible time. I always say it'd be within 3 months all this stuff happened. Gave into temptation and did some things that had domino effect to where he impregnated a married woman. He tried to connive where the man would marry sleep with his wife. Didn't happen, so he caused the man to be killed. But as soon as he saw that, I definitely sinned against God, he immediately repented. Unfortunately, that caused problems in his house. God says certain things are going to happen. He allowed his oldest son slept with his daughter, and he didn't do anything to Amnon. That Absalom, the full brother of the girl who was violated, Tamar, he lost respect totally. He had no respect for David. He just did some crazy stuff, tried to take over the kingdom, tried to kill his father, Absalom was a trip. But yeah, David had to run for his life. Just crazy stuff happened. He made some bad calls. But after he had sinned against God, David really, that one season, David did everything he could the Bible says he did everything he did was to please God. His whole life was dedicated to pleasing God. And then when it was time for God to punish him for his sins, he didn't even argue. He just accepted it like a man. I did this or what have you. Even running for his life, I questioned that and said, but he knew it was going to happen, right? So yeah, now King Solomon, his son, with Bathsheba, is now king. So yeah, King Solomon is the 3rd king over Israel. And we'll see where it goes from that. So guys, that was Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. Then you had Numbers, Deuteronomy. Then you had Joshua. You had Judges. You had Ruth. 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. That's 10 books down, guys. We're in the 11th book, and that is the 1 Kings. And they number 102. 1 Kings chapter 1 and chapter 2. So guys, you have a God-filled blessed day.